Do not normally do this, but I felt inclined to talk about this and the recent remarks from Candace Owens. What we have seen from Candace Owens and what has come to light, and a possible reason as to why she is saying all these things, is that she had converted to Roman Catholicism. Obviously, I don't know Candace personally, but I think it was at this point where everything turned and where she really started to believe the statement she was making. She claims to have never said anything anti-Semitic, but she said the most blatant anti-Semitic statements, and also said things which were very, very insightful. And I say insightful, I don't mean like insightful, like wise, but like inciting to incite hate, which such a large audience is very, very dangerous. That's because she has joined an element of Christianity which is anti-Semitic. And you can hear this from Christians themselves about the group she has joined. But yet she's convinced that she's just stating facts. She's just stating facts. And none of them are facts. They're all judgments, none facts whatsoever. And that is a blatant example of a person who's very intelligent, very insightful, and yet at the same time is the other insightful because they cannot see themselves objectively and everything is subjective. For example, Candace was speaking sort of about like her demise at the hands of Zionists or Jews, which is really among the most like evil and hateful and reckless things she's done to date. At a time of great volatility in our nation, when a former president was almost assassinated, there is no shortage of unhinged people like looking to wreak havoc on society. So before I go any further, obviously praying for her safety and for her well-being and for everyone's really safety and well-being. But you move on to think about like, what's the motivation? Is it ignorance? Is it hate? Is it suspicion? It could really be a combination of all of those things. But ultimately, what I think it's about is clicks and attention and trying to find what works for her, right? She left Daily Wire. She's trying to find what works for her. She just wants sort of the attention and the provocative conversations. I don't think that diminishes or dismisses what she's saying about the Jews to her very large audience, which currently at this moment she still holds credibility and influence with. So that may be a reason why sort of the provocative conversations, the attention, I still think she somewhat or fully, I don't really know, believes what she is saying. And so you think about anti-Semitism as like this OG conspiracy theory. And so like all conspiracy theories, it's reductionist. Everything in the world can be explained by viewing the whole reality through this lens, this one sort of monochromatic, super stupid lens. And Candace Owens will pull out like 5 or 6 untruths, then a couple that with like a semi-truth, and then kind of like, again, like she's viewing this whole prism of the world through Jews are responsible for everything bad. And if that's your worldview, Jews are responsible for everything bad, that's the prism you view this world through, then you can easily just connect dots everywhere you see them because you have this prism which you see the world through as Jews are responsible for everything bad. And for a while, you know, Candace Owens had been dying on this hill of not being anti-Semitic, right? She says she has Jewish friends and I'm just asking questions and I'm being curious and I want to learn about this. But then she goes on and goes down this route and starts spouting off these things. So she's really made it very, very easy now to call it out. You know, she had that whole Christ is King thing, and that's not inherently anti-Semitic at all. And then, you know, when I thought her whole mission was to sort of explain how she's not, in the beginning, you could say that there was a lot of reactionary stuff in the Jewish community or Jews on the left who were like throwing out the term anti-Semite so loosely. But like Rabbi Wolpe says, don't throw it out so loosely. Throw it out when people actually deserve the term. And now it sounds like she's really working hard to earn the term. You know, but I don't know. I'm kind of less concerned about her than I was maybe a couple months ago because I do think she's through all of this, she's just sort of diluted her brand. She's pushed past into oblivion and into obscurity where no one really serious or credible is going to take this seriously, and potentially, I don't know, her credibility may go away. Again, at this point, she still has a really large audience that really views her as an expert in these certain areas, because she's so well spoken and she thinks she's so well researched, or whatever the case may be. And at some point, like eventually, people will start to talk less about Israel and the interest in Zionism will sort of die down. But she's going to be left as someone who clearly doesn't do her research and clearly isn't credible voice on new topics that she hasn't covered before, right? Obviously, Candace has done some amazing journalism on some amazing things throughout the years, but like this doesn't seem to be one of them. At this point, like Candace is just ripe with irrational conspiracy theory. She's become more possessed and enraptured with this like narrative of what she thinks is discovery and novelty of new ideas. But they're really old ideas and debunked ideas and stuff that's been around a long time. And the worst elements of it, I would call irrational discourse centered around anti-Jewish, anti-Semitic conspiracy theories that have gone on and perpetrated and permeated for a while. They've been around a long time. And I think for her, she thinks it's like all new, right? And seems like she's presenting it that way. We engage with we definitely have to engage with ideas we find wrong or repulsive or even offensive. We have to do that. We can do that. It's a war of ideas. We have to do that. But now it just feels like with her, this drift off into the deep, dark corners of obscurity. So you think like, is even the conversation with her worth it, right? She had like 3 social media personalities on, like she talked to, and like those people have never had any sort of credentials when it comes to this space or to academics or really to anything intellectual. And they all use sort of vague accusational language that's not rooted in evidence or any kind of reality, but it's rooted in suspicion. It's rooted in envy, conspiracy, all that kind of stuff. It's very low resolution thinking. And she's presented them as like, I've discovered this. I've cracked the code. I read the book about it, And you know what else is a book about Jews? It's called Mein Kampf, right? There are plenty of books that are anti-Semitic, that perpetrate like anti-Semitic ideas. And those are the books that she's reading. Candace has always said she's speaking out against propaganda and against mainstream narrative of what we've been taught. And then she watches like one video or one documentary and suddenly she's got all the answers to this question. I just don't understand sort of the metric here by which we're measuring what propaganda is and what isn't propaganda. But the point here is because like she's read this book, this is what she's found, I found this, and this is what I've seen, and we know who's behind it. Like it's the Jews, obviously. And so what's the standard here by what we're evaluating information, right? Everyone's gut instincts and inferences, some obscure person who wrote something, and you're just trying to find these things because they counter a narrative of what you've been told. So obviously because of that, they must be true. And this is what she's, telling her millions of followers. And so like when it should be like what has stood the test of time must be true. And the ones that have constantly tried to find their way to break, that are like, they're rooted in bad motivation, a very sinister motivation. And it's so ironic to think Candace is on the side of free speech, free thinking, rational ideas, and discourse, which are extremely important ideas, when really this whole thing is just coded in irrationality, suspicion, Jew hatred, and conspiracy thinking. So those are my thoughts. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Cheers. I'll see you guys next time. Lots of love.